Age does not make us wise. Awareness does, and sometimes what we don't say protects more than what we do. My friends, as we grow older, something beautiful happens. We see life more clearly, we understand people more deeply, and we learn, often the hard way, that silence is a form of strength. Not everything needs to be spoken, not everyone deserves to know our heart, and not every truth has to be shared to be lived. Today I want to share 8 things you should never reveal in your later years. Not out of fear, not out of secrecy, but out of wisdom. There comes a moment in life, especially as we enter our later years, when we realize that not every story from our past deserves an audience. Some scars were never meant to be displayed like trophies. Some wounds were never meant to be reopened for the entertainment or curiosity of others. The truth is this: pain is sacred. Your struggles, your heartbreaks, your traumas, your disappointments, they were chapters you survived, not chapters that everyone needs to read. And the older we grow, the more we understand that trust is not something we give freely anymore. It is something we offer carefully, selectively, intentionally. You see, many people listen out of curiosity, not compassion. Some listen to collect information, not to provide comfort. And some listen quietly, only to use your words loudly against you later. That is why in old age, wisdom whispers a gentle warning: do not share your past wounds with people who haven't earned the privilege of hearing them. Your heart is not a public library. Not everyone gets to borrow pieces of your story. When we are young, we feel an urge to express everything. We want people to understand what made us who we are. We speak quickly, openly, impulsively. But over time, life shows us that understanding is rare, empathy is rare, safe people are rare. We learn, often painfully, that there are those who will minimize our struggles, or blame us for them, or turn them into gossip, or weaponize them in moments of conflict. And suddenly, our openness becomes our vulnerability, and our vulnerability becomes our regret. But when you meet the right person, someone with maturity, someone who listens with the intention to understand, someone who holds your words like fragile glass, sharing your story becomes healing. The mistake is assuming everyone is that kind of person. Imagine a tender wound on your arm. It needs protection, not exposure. Covering it doesn't mean you're hiding it, it means you're allowing it to heal. The same is true with emotional wounds. Silence in this case is not secrecy. It is self-respect. It is knowing that your past is not entertainment. It is not gossip material. It is not to be discussed with the careless or the curious. And here is something important: your past does not define you, and therefore it does not need to be explained to everyone. Some people only want to know your past to justify their assumptions. Some want to know it so they can feel superior. Some want to know it so they can find weaknesses to exploit. And some just want a story to tell at the next gathering. But none of these reasons are worthy of the sacredness of your life. Your past is a temple. Enter only with reverence. Not every visitor is deserving. As you grow older, choose peace over explanation. Choose privacy over exposure. Choose inner strength over outer validation. Let your life speak for itself. Let your calmness show that you have overcome storms. Let your maturity show that you have learned your lessons. Let your silence show that you are no longer interested in reopening old wounds just to satisfy someone else's curiosity. And remember this: even the strongest people have painful memories. The difference is that strong people do not allow those memories to be misused by unreliable listeners. They speak only when there is a purpose. They open up only when they feel safe. They share only when it brings healing, not harm. There is power in choosing who gets access to your heart. Not everyone deserves front row seats to your struggles. Not everyone deserves to know how deeply you have been hurt. And certainly, not everyone deserves the right to interpret your past through their limited understanding. In old age, one of the greatest blessings is clarity. The clarity to know who truly cares, who truly supports, who truly understands. The clarity to distinguish between those who come to heal and those who come to hear. The clarity to speak less but mean more. The clarity to protect your dignity by guarding your wounds. So hold your past with grace. Hold your memories with strength. Share them only where truth meets compassion. and keep them sealed from those who haven't earned the right to hold them gently. Because silence, when used wisely, is not emptiness, it is protection, it is strength, it is wisdom. Money is one of those subjects that has divided families, destroyed friendships, created enemies, and even shattered the peace within people's own hearts. It is strange how a few numbers in a bank account, numbers that don't speak, don't breathe, don't feel, can influence relationships more than love, loyalty, or character. And the older we become, the more we realize that discussing money openly is rarely beneficial. In fact, it often creates more misunderstandings than clarity, more jealousy than support, and more judgment than understanding. There is something deeply wise about keeping your financial life private. Not because you are hiding anything, but because the human mind reacts to money in unpredictable ways. If you tell people you have more than they expected, envy appears. If you tell people you have less than they imagined, pity appears. If you tell people you are struggling, advice appears. Most of it from people who have never walked your path or carried your burdens. And if you tell them you are doing well, expectations appear. Suddenly they want favors, loans, contributions, and support. Somewhere between all this noise, your peace disappears. Money exposes people's true nature faster than anything else. Some will admire you for it, some will resent you for it, some will get closer to you because of it, and some will distance themselves because of it, but very few will remain the same after they discover your financial reality. That is why, especially in old age, it is wise to keep your financial matters between yourself, God, and the responsibilities He has trusted you with. There is a quiet dignity in living simply and letting your lifestyle speak without unnecessary explanations. People may guess, people may assume, people may speculate, but none of that has anything to do with your peace. You owe no one an explanation of what you earn, what you save, what you owe, or what you own. These things do not define your worth. They do not define your character. And most importantly, they do not define the value of your relationships. Some people talk about money to impress others. Some talk about it to gain sympathy. But both approaches leave you exposed, either to jealousy or to judgment. Silence protects you from both. Silence keeps your intentions pure. Silence keeps you grounded. Silence keeps your relationships free from unnecessary expectations. Think of a river. The deeper it is, the quieter it flows. People whose financial life is stable rarely talk about it. They don't announce their successes and they don't broadcast their struggles. They move quietly, wisely, responsibly. And because of that, they stay peaceful. On the other hand, those who constantly discuss money often do so to seek validation or comparison or reassurance. But the more you talk, the more people observe, evaluate, measure, and eventually misuse that information. As we age, we learn that privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is protection. It protects us from manipulation. It protects us from false expectations. It protects us from people who see money as a reason to change their behavior toward us. It protects us from the subtle pressures of society telling us what we should buy, how much we should give, or how successful we should appear. Most importantly, keeping your financial life private protects your mind. It frees you from unnecessary conversations, from defending your choices, from explaining your situation. It reminds you that the true source of security is not money itself, but discipline, gratitude, and faith. Money may run out, opportunities may fade, investments may fail. But a disciplined mind, a grateful heart, and reliance on God, these things remain steady even in storms. And remember this, generosity does not need publicity. You don't have to explain whom you helped, how much you gave, or what sacrifices you made. Let your giving be quiet. Let your blessings be silent. Let your heart be the only place where your financial life is fully known. Because the moment you start sharing details with the wrong people, they stop seeing your kindness and start seeing your capacity. They stop appreciating you and start calculating you. There is freedom in mystery. There is peace in discretion. There is strength in keeping certain doors closed. So live humbly. Give quietly, save wisely, spend consciously, and let the world see only what you choose to show, never everything you have. Because your financial life is not their responsibility, their right, or their business. It is yours. And in old age, that understanding becomes a blessing that protects not just your money, but your peace. Every home carries stories no outsider will ever fully understand. There are moments of joy, moments of conflict, moments of misunderstanding, and moments of healing that only those who live inside those walls can truly feel. As we grow older, we begin to understand something very profound. Sharing the details of family issues with outsiders rarely brings peace. More often it brings confusion, misjudgment, and unnecessary interference. Because people who are not part of your family will always see only a fraction of the picture, yet they will react as if they know the whole story. Family issues are like delicate threads woven into the fabric of the home. When handled roughly, they tear. When handled with patience, they strengthen. But when taken outside, shared loosely, casually, carelessly, they unravel. And the truth is, outsiders may pretend to care, they may offer opinions, they may appear concerned, but they can never feel the consequences of those words the way your family does. They are observers, not participants. They are listeners, not healers. Their knowledge is shallow, but their judgment can be deep. There is a simple wisdom here. The world often sees the conflict, but it rarely sees the love beneath it. Outsiders will hear about the argument, but they will never witness the forgiveness that follows. They will hear about the mistake, but they will not see the growth that comes afterward. They will hear about the disagreement, but they will never feel the bond that keeps everyone together despite it. That is why sharing family issues outside the family creates a distorted reality. Others end up forming opinions about your loved ones based on a version of the story that is incomplete, emotional, and spoken in a moment of frustration. And here is the painful part. Once others form an opinion, they rarely change it. You may forgive your family, you may move on, you may heal, but the listener you confided in remembers only the grievance, not the reconciliation. You return to peace, but they continue holding the resentment on your behalf. And slowly, they begin to view your family through a lens of negativity, even when things have already been resolved within your home. This is why silence becomes a form of protection. Not protection of secrets, but protection of relationships. What happens between a husband and wife, between siblings, between parents and children, these things have a sacredness. They are not meant for public discussion, they are meant for internal resolution. Because when you speak in anger, you expose your family at its weakest moment. And when you cool down, you are left with regret, while others are left with judgment. As we age, we realize that peace at home is far more valuable than proving to the world that we are right. We learn that the best solutions come from conversations within the household, not from consultations with outsiders who have no emotional investment in the outcome. Outsiders can give opinions, but they cannot give healing. Only the hearts involved can do that. And even when someone genuinely cares, they still do not carry the same responsibility, the same history, the same depth of connection. Advice from outsiders can sometimes make things worse. Their words may ignite more misunderstanding or increase blame or deepen wounds that could have healed naturally. But when issues are handled calmly within the family, even the biggest storms can eventually turn into lessons, into maturity, into stronger bonds. In old age, the goal is not to expose the flaws of your home, but to protect the harmony of your home. It is not to win arguments in the outside world, but to build understanding inside your own walls. It is not to seek sympathy from others, but to strengthen unity among your own. Every family, no matter how loving, faces conflict. But the conflicts are not what defines the family. What defines a family is the willingness to work through them with patience, respect, and compassion. And that process becomes harder when the world is invited into the conversation. Hold your family issues with tenderness. Discuss them with maturity. Resolve them with wisdom. Share them only with those who are a part of the healing, not a part of the noise. Because peace grows in protected spaces, not in public ones. Healing happens in privacy, not in popularity. And unity strengthens when the family learns to handle its own storms. Together, there is a certain kind of beauty in walking quietly toward your dreams. A quiet confidence, a silent discipline, a peaceful certainty that does not need applause to stay motivated. As we grow older, we begin to understand that our dreams, just like seeds, need protection in the early stages. They need warmth, patience, time, and most of all, privacy. The moment we expose them too early to the world, they become vulnerable. Not because the dream is weak, but because people's opinions can be harsh, careless, and discouraging. You see, people react to dreams based on their own limitations, not yours. When you share your long-term plans with too many people too early, you unintentionally invite their fears, their doubts, their insecurities to sit at the same table as your vision. And suddenly, something that felt exciting begins to feel uncertain. Something that felt possible begins to feel unrealistic. Something that was blooming in your heart begins to shrink under the weight of someone else's disbelief. Think of a sapling. It has the potential to become a mighty tree, but only if it is shielded from harsh winds while it is small. If exposed too early, it can break. Dreams work the same way. In their beginning stages, they need the quiet shelter of your discipline, not the noisy opinions of the world. Many people do not doubt you because they see something wrong with your dream. They doubt because they cannot imagine themselves doing something so bold. Their no does not define your potential. It only defines their comfort zone. But if you absorb their negativity, you start shrinking your dream to match their belief, not your capability. This is why silence is powerful. Silence protects destiny. Silence preserves focus. Silence guards the mind from unnecessary distractions. When you keep your long-term plans private, you allow yourself the freedom to grow without pressure, to make mistakes without judgment, to change direction without explanations, and to pursue excellence without noise. And there is another layer to this wisdom. People remember your announcements more than your efforts. If you declare your dream too loudly and then get delayed, distracted, or discouraged, they judge the delay rather than respecting the journey. But when you work quietly, the only thing they can judge is the result. And results speak louder than promises. Imagine how peaceful life becomes when you no longer need to convince anyone of what you're building. When you no longer need approval before you take the next step. When you no longer seek permission to evolve. Your energy is no longer wasted in explaining yourself. It is fully invested in becoming yourself. There is a deep spiritual truth here. God works in silence. He prepares, shapes, guides, and strengthens us quietly, away from the eyes of the world. And when the time is right, He reveals the outcome, not the process. We must learn from that divine rhythm. Let the preparation be private. Let the transformation be silent. Let the results be your introduction. Many dreams fail not because of lack of ability, but because of premature exposure. The moment too many voices enter your sacred space, the purity of the dream becomes diluted. Some will criticize, some will compare, some will discourage, some will compete, and very few will genuinely support. So why invite noise when silence is your strongest ally? And remember, the people who truly care about you do not need constant updates. They will support you when the fruit appears, and they will love you even if the fruit takes longer than expected. The ones who demand explanations, the ones who insist on knowing every detail, they are often the ones who contribute least to your growth. So walk quietly toward your long-term plans. Let your patience be your shield. Let your discipline be your fuel. Let your consistency be your voice. Move slowly if you must, but move silently. Because destiny is built not on noise, but on devotion. And one day, when you stand at the place you once dreamed of reaching, people will look at you with amazement and ask, "When did you do all this?" And you will simply smile because you will know it happened in silence, it grew in silence, it succeeded in silence. The world only saw the final chapter, the rest was between you, your effort, and your faith. There is a quiet nobility in doing good without announcing it. As we grow older, we begin to understand that kindness is not meant to be displayed, it is meant to be lived. We realize that the moment goodness becomes a topic of conversation, the purity behind it begins to fade. When we talk too much about how generous we are or how much we have helped others, our ego silently walks into the room and sits beside us. And ego has this strange ability to make even the holiest of actions feel polluted. True kindness never needs an audience. It doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't seek applause. It flows naturally, like a gentle river, nourishing everything in its path without making noise about how many lives it touches. As we age, we understand that our goodness should be something people discover, not something we announce. Because the more silently we serve, the more sincerely we serve, and the more sincerely we serve, the closer we move to God. When you reflect on life, you'll notice something profound. The people who talk the loudest about their goodness often help the least, while the ones who help quietly are usually the ones carrying the biggest hearts. The world may not know their names, but heaven surely does. And that is the only recognition that matters in the end. Every act of kindness is a seed. When done quietly, it grows into a tree that provides shade to many. But when spoken loudly, it becomes a seed thrown on hard ground. It may look impressive for a moment, but it does not grow, it does not root, it does not last. Silence protects the power of goodness. Many people talk about the charity they have given, the people they have helped, the sacrifice they have made. But often this talk creates expectations. Either their own expectations of praise or others' expectations of continued support. And expectations quickly turn generosity into obligation. Once kindness becomes a transaction, the soul of it disappears. But when you help someone privately, something sacred happens. You free the other person from feeling indebted, and you free yourself from expecting anything in return. Not gratitude, not recognition, not validation. You do it simply because it is the right thing to do. In old age, you begin to appreciate the beauty of leaving behind footprints that no one sees. Not every good deed needs a witness. Not every sacrifice needs acknowledgement. Sometimes the greatest legacy is the good you did that no one knew about. Those are the actions that shape your character, polish your heart, and prepare your soul. And silently serving others teaches humility, one of the greatest virtues of all. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. It is placing someone else's need above your desire for validation. It is allowing your actions to praise God rather than allowing your words to praise yourself. There is also this important truth. When people know too much about your kindness, some will misuse it. They will expect more. They will demand more. They will take your goodness for granted. And slowly, your kindness becomes a burden instead of a blessing. But when you serve quietly, without broadcasting your efforts, you protect yourself from people who would exploit your heart instead of appreciating it. Think of the sun. It rises every day and offers warmth, light, and life to the entire world. Yet it never once announces how great it is. It never once declares how many lives it sustains. It shines simply because shining is its nature. When we grow older, we begin to understand that our goodness should be like the sun. Steady, constant, silent. And perhaps the greatest joy of silent kindness is this. It deepens your connection with God. When you help someone discreetly, when you give without telling, when you serve without showing, God becomes the only witness. And when He is the only witness, your reward becomes spiritual, eternal, untouchable. People may forget what you did, but God never will. So let your kindness be like a soft whisper that only the heavens hear. Let your service be like a small lamp lighting someone's darkness without seeking attention. Let your goodness be so natural that people feel its warmth without ever needing to know its source. Because the most powerful form of kindness is the one that asks for nothing, not even recognition. And in old age you realize a beautiful truth. The quietest goodness often has the loudest impact. not on the world but on the soul. It refines you, softens you, purifies you, and it teaches you that the real reward of kindness is not praise, it is peace. As we grow older, we begin to understand that not everyone who listens deserves to hear our weaknesses. Not everyone who smiles is a friend, not everyone who offers comfort has good intentions. Life slowly teaches us that while people love stories of strength, many are even more curious about stories of vulnerability, because vulnerability reveals the parts of us that can be used, judged, or misunderstood. Your weaknesses are precious. They are the soft corners of your life. They hold memories of battles fought, fears faced, and struggles survived. They represent moments when you were fragile, moments when your soul trembled, moments when you needed help. These moments are sacred, and sacred things must be shared sparingly, carefully, and only with those who know how to handle them with kindness. When we are younger, we sometimes open our hearts too quickly. We share our fears, failures, insecurities, doubts with people simply because they seem friendly or sympathetic. But time reveals something important. Not everyone who hears your story is listening to help you. Some listen to measure you, some to judge you, and some to store your words for later use. What you share in trust, they may use in convenience. And what you say in vulnerability, they may repeat when you are not there to defend yourself. This is why wisdom grows with age. We learn to observe people before trusting them. We learn to listen not only to their words but to their intentions. We learn to test their character, not by how they treat us, but by how they treat others. Most importantly, we learn that strength is not only in speaking openly, it is also in protecting ourselves wisely. Think of a delicate piece of glass. If placed in careless hands, it shatters. But in gentle, responsible hands, it remains safe. Your weaknesses are like that piece of glass. When you share them with the wrong people, they break your trust. When you share them with the right people, they protect your heart. Some people want to know your weakness so they can feel stronger. Some want to know your fears so they can feel superior. Some want to know your insecurities so they can manipulate you. And some simply want information. Not because they care, but because they enjoy the drama of someone else's life. But then, there are those rare souls who listen with compassion. They don't judge, they don't compare, they don't gossip, they don't store your pain like ammunition. They hold your words with tenderness. They comfort you, pray for you, support you, encourage you. They help you rise, not fall. These are the people who deserve to know your weaknesses, the strong ones. Sharing your vulnerabilities with a strong person does not make you weak, it makes you wise. It shows that you understand the value of emotional safety. It shows that you recognize the difference between a temporary listener and a lifelong supporter. It shows that you honor your own heart enough to place it in careful hands. And here is a deeper truth. Even the people who love you deeply may not always have the strength to hold your weaknesses. Love is important, but emotional maturity is equally important. Someone may love you but still panic when you are vulnerable. They may care for you but give you advice that harms more than it helps. They may want to support you but lack the wisdom to guide you. That is why emotional safety is not determined by love alone. It is determined by character, stability, and depth. In old age, your peace becomes more important than your need to be understood. You no longer feel the urge to explain yourself to everyone. You no longer want to bleed emotionally just to feel seen. You no longer want to open old wounds just to feel supported. Instead, you want clarity, calmness, and companionship that feels safe. So speak your fears only to those who have conquered their own. Share your doubts only with those who have known uncertainty and survived it. Reveal your weaknesses only to those who have proven their strength, not through muscles or loud voices, but through loyalty, empathy, and reliability. And if you ever find yourself alone with your weaknesses, remember this: God is the safest listener. He does not judge, He does not expose, He does not misunderstand. He heals quietly, He strengthens gently, He guides patiently, and He holds every weakness like a precious tear, never wasted, never ignored. In the end, the goal is simple: protect your heart, guard your soul, share wisely, And surround yourself with people who lift you, not those who secretly wait for you to fall. Because your weaknesses deserve strong hands, not curious eyes. They deserve compassionate hearts, not careless mouths. They deserve honor, not exposure. This is the wisdom of age, and it brings peace like nothing else. With time, life teaches us an extraordinary lesson. Wisdom is not in saying everything you know, but in choosing what not to say. When we are younger, we often feel the need to prove ourselves. We want people to know that we are intelligent, that we are informed, that we are capable. And in that eagerness, we speak more than necessary. But as the years pass, something shifts. We realize that silence is not ignorance, silence is not weakness, silence is not distance, silence is mastery. There is a quiet strength in knowing something deeply, yet not feeling the urge to display it. A wise person is not the one who knows the most, it is the one who speaks only what is needed, only what is kind, only what benefits others. Knowledge is like a lamp. Its brightness is not determined by how loudly you talk about it, but by the clarity it brings into your actions and decisions. When you speak too much, people stop listening. When you reveal everything you know, people stop valuing your words. But when you speak with intention, with restraint, with purpose, your words begin to carry weight. They land deeply, they linger, they guide. People begin to wait for your voice rather than run from its noise. There is also a simple truth: not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not everyone will honor the depth of your experience. Not everyone will respect the journey that taught you what you know. Some people want knowledge only to argue. Some want it to compete, some want it to criticize, and some want it to use against you. When you speak too freely, you give parts of yourself to people who haven't earned the right to receive them. A river flows gracefully, not because it announces its depth, but because it simply is what it is. In the same way, a wise person does not need to show the world how much they know. Their presence reflects their learning, their choices reflect their understanding, their calmness reflects their growth. A quiet mind is far more powerful than a loud mouth, and with age comes discernment. You begin to see that most conversations do not need your entire truth. Most debates do not need your full experience. Most conflicts do not need your detailed explanation. Sometimes silence protects your energy. Sometimes silence protects your dignity. And sometimes silence protects the peace that took you decades to build. In old age, peace becomes more important than winning any argument. You no longer feel a need to correct everyone. You no longer rush to share every insight. You no longer jump into every conversation. You learn to save your words for the moments that matter. You learn to speak only when your words can add value, heal someone, guide someone, or uplift someone. And this is one of the most beautiful forms of wisdom. Letting people learn from life, not from your lecture. You cannot teach someone who is not ready to listen. You cannot give wisdom to someone who is not ready to receive it. You cannot offer insight to someone whose ego is louder than their humility. So you speak less and you observe more. You share gently and only when asked. You understand that guidance without invitation often turns into resistance. Life becomes lighter the moment you stop explaining yourself to everyone. The moment you stop trying to prove your intelligence. The moment you stop offering every thought that crosses your mind becomes peaceful, your relationships become simpler, your days become quieter, and in that quietness, you become stronger. People begin to notice that your silence has a depth. They begin to notice that your words, when spoken, carry wisdom. They begin to notice that you listen more than you talk, and in doing so, you understand more than they ever expected. You become someone whose presence itself teaches, even without speaking. There's an old saying, the wise speak when it improves the silence. That is the essence of maturity. Your silence becomes your strength. Your restraint becomes your power. Your selective speech becomes your wisdom. So, as you grow older, don't feel pressured to share everything you know. Let some truths rest quietly within you. Let some knowledge shape your character rather than your conversations. Let people wonder how you became so calm, so steady, so centered. Let your life be the message, not your mouth. because in the end, the world may admire intelligence, but it deeply respects wisdom. And wisdom always walks with silence. My friends, as life teaches us, not everything needs to be spoken, not every truth needs to be shared, not every moment needs an audience, but every heartbeat needs peace. And peace begins where noise ends. As you move forward, whether you are young in years or young in spirit, carry this with you. When God becomes your source, silence becomes your strength. You no longer need the world's approval. You no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to fear judgment or gossip or misunderstanding. Because God sees what no one sees. God hears what no one hears. God knows what no one knows. And the life that is guided by Him does not need loudness to be meaningful. It needs faith. It needs discipline. It needs humility, and it needs the courage to walk quietly in a noisy world. So protect your peace. Guard your heart. Speak less. Shine more. Live with dignity, compassion, and purpose, and always remember this eternal truth. A quiet life anchored in God will take you further than a loud life anchored in ego. Walk with grace, walk with faith, walk with courage, and let your silence become a testimony of your inner strength and your trust in the one who guides every step.